The Royal Titans are a brand new boss in Old School RuneScape. They consist of the Fire one and the Ice one. They're designed for players who are relatively new to bossing and looking to get good, with a focus on gear switching. They can be fought solo or as a duo, but no more than 2 players, so if you have more than one friend, you're gonna have to pick a favorite. There are no strict requirements, but if you don't want it to suck, these are the minimum stats I would recommend. Melee is going to be your main source of DPS, so you want to have decent melee stats since they have decent defense and a lot of health. 75 magic is needed to one-shot the minions, 43 prayer for protect from melee is pretty much needed, and at 44 prayer you get Eagle Eye, which will be helpful for when you're using range. For your gear setup, bring your best melee DPS gear. Defense doesn't matter here as long as you have protect from melee. I would recommend at least an abyssal whip, but obviously if you have something better, bring that instead. Note that the whip is better than the zombie axe in this instance. Also bring a range switch. I like to bring a 4-way switch, but you can bring as many or as few as you're comfortable with. Bring your most accurate ranged weapon, as the Titans have very high range defense. A rune crossbow with Diamond Bolt's E is better than a blowpipe with Dragon Darts. Mage is not as important since you'll only be using it against the minions, but you will need at least a 1 to 2-way switch since the minions do have a bit of mage defense. For the rest of your inventory setup, you'll want runes for Water Wave and Fire Wave, teleports, a super combat and a ranging potion, and optionally a special attack weapon. Dragon Claws, Burning Claws, or the Crystal Halberd are the best options if you have any of them. Fill the rest of your inventory with food and prayer potions or super restores. 5 to 6 super restores seem to be the right amount for me, but you can adjust your supplies as needed. Now that you're all geared up, it's time to head over to the actual fight. The Royal Titans are located in the Asgarnia Ice Dungeon. The quickest way to get there is with the Giant Soul Amulet, which is an untradeable drop from the Royal Titans themselves. The other way to get there is by using the Fairy Ring AIQ. From the Fairy Ring, run north and climb down the trapdoor, then run west around the dungeon until you reach the entrance. At 60 agility, you can also take a shortcut in the dungeon to get there faster. Now it's finally time for the actual boss fight. Make sure you put up protect from melee as soon as you enter the room and leave it up for the entire fight. The bosses will start on either side of the arena. You should have time to get 1 melee hit in before they walk away, at which point you'll have to swap to your range gear to hit them with range. When they are out of melee range, the bosses have 2 different attacks. The first is summoning walls of ice or fire. You can't move through them and you will take damage if they appear under you. All you have to do is move out of the way, and if you get trapped, you can destroy the walls with a spell of the opposite element. Water destroys the fire walls, and fire destroys the ice walls. The second attack is summoning minions. They attack with melee and will explode after several seconds. Casting a wave or surge spell of the opposite element will instantly one-shot them, as long as you don't splash. They can also be killed by the walls from the opposite element. After several seconds, they will walk back into melee range for several seconds before they walk away again. When in melee range, they will use a ground slam attack. Protect from melee negates all the damage from it. After several more seconds, they will walk back out of melee range and repeat this cycle throughout the first phase of the fight. Once one of the bosses gets to around 200 HP, they will both move to the ends of the arena and will not move for the rest of the fight. During this phase, they will still use their basic ground slam attack and summon minions, but they will no longer summon walls and will instead use a new attack. A swirling yin-yang looking symbol will appear on the ground. This is your safe tile. It is very important that you stand on it. After a few seconds, every tile except the symbol will be hit with 3 consecutive attacks. Everything north and east of the symbol will be hit with fire, and everything south and west will be hit with ice. This attack will also kill any minions of the opposite element. During this phase, your goal is to get one of the bosses as low as possible without killing it, then kill the second boss, and then finally finish off the first one. Once you kill one of the bosses, the other one will be able to hit you through prayer, so you want to kill them both as close to the same time as possible. Now that both the bosses are dead, it's time to claim your lootations. You can only loot one of the bosses, so if you're in a duo, you and your partner each get to loot one. But if you're in a solo, one of the bosses will remain unlooted. There are 3 different options for looting: loot, sacrifice, and take pages. Loot will give you a normal roll on the loot table, sacrifice will give you no loot but double your chance of getting the pet, and take pages will replace your loot with a guaranteed drop of desiccated pages. But what are these desiccated pages I speak of? They are one of the uniques from the Royal Titans. Desiccated pages can be turned into pages for any of the elemental tomes. They also drop prayer scrolls to upgrade the Eagle Eye and Mystic Might prayers. Branda drops the Mystic Might upgrade and Eldric drops the Eagle Eye upgrade. Unfortunately, these scrolls are untradeable, so they're kinda useless if you already have Rigor and Augury. But if you don't, they are a nice upgrade in between. And for those of you who like money, they do in fact have a tradable unique as well. Branda drops the Fire Staff Crown and Eldric drops the Ice Staff Crown, which together can be combined with a Battle Staff to create the Twin Flame Staff. Finally, they also drop the Giant Soul Amulet, which has teleports to each of the giant bosses, and they have a pet as well. And that's just about all you need to know about the Royal Titans, but just in case you want a bit more detail, I've got a full uncut example of the entire fight, which I will talk you through right now. As soon as the bosses spawn in, I use one spec and then immediately swap to range. I see that the ice wall is about to appear under me, so I move out of the way. The minions spawn, I fire wave the ice ones to one-shot them, but the fire ones are stuck behind a wall, so I ignore them. At this point, Branda is back in melee range, so I use my second spec, then switch to my halberd. Once phase 2 starts, I continue attacking Branda with melee. I get her in one-shot range as the symbol appears, so I stand on it and switch to range to attack Eldric. Once the 3 attacks are done, I switch back to melee and attack Eldric. Fire minions spawn, but I ignore them since I'm on the ice side of the room. Once the symbol appears again, I stand on it and switch to range. Eldric kills the fire minions for me, then I go back to melee once the attack ends. He spawns ice minions, which I kill because they're on the ice side of the room and thus will not die to the special attack. Once Eldric dies, I go back to Branda until she dies as well. Then I take my loot and the fight is completed. And that is all the information I have for you in this guide. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments. And I will see you later, gamers.